Welcome back in, everybody. It is so good to see you. Thank you for being with us. I am equally excited about covering basically some of the news and notes for the Kansas City Chiefs over the past couple of weeks with the Washington game and the Tennessee game. I'm using a new device. This is the first time I've ever recorded on this device. So if the sound and the picture is worse than it usually is, by all means, stick that in the comments and I'll go back to my other device. If it's better than the sorriness that I usually put on here from a professional standpoint, let me know that as well, and I'll keep on using this device. I'm always looking to get better where I can. Okay, news and notes from Washington. Then I'm going to hit the offense real quick and some things I think the Chiefs need to be looking at over the next few weeks. Just some things they need to kind of sort of consider and maybe kind of sort of do. And then we'll finish up, I think, with the defense, or we'll see how I want to do this. Okay. I know everybody's kind of down right now. You're 3-4, and you've lost to some of the best teams in the AFC, and the Tennessee beatdown was pretty brutal. Okay, I still haven't given up on this Chiefs season, and I still haven't given up on the idea that maybe the Chiefs might find a way to get hot and put this thing back together. Even if they don't, I still think they can have a solid season, get into the playoffs, have something to be proud of, just a good amount of work to be proud of, even if they don't win a Super Bowl. But I know the idea is win the Super Bowl. I haven't given up on that, okay? Tennessee was a buzzsaw. A lot of the other teams that played Tennessee so far this year kind of got a little lucky because Tennessee wasn't healthy. Tennessee was healthy for the Kansas City game, okay? It's just another thing to add on to this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Tennessee was healthy, man. All right, Tennessee was ready to go. They had Derrick Henry. Tannehill was on. They had A.J. Brown. Even though Julio Jones isn't back to 100%, he was out there on the field playing. Okay, Tennessee was ready to go. Tennessee's a good football team, and so Kansas City ran into a buzzsaw, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of things to talk about, okay? First of all, good job on Derrick Henry, okay? I know Spagnuolo's taken a lot of heat this year, and I understand it, okay? But they did an excellent job on Derrick Henry. 29 carries for 86 yards. For the most part, he had a couple of big runs. I think a couple of, 9 yards, 12 yards, had a couple like that. But for the most part, they kept him contained. Bolton played a huge part in that. So did Derek Nottie. But Spagnuolo loaded the box. And Spagnuolo said, we are not going to let Derrick Henry beat us. Now, you still lost, and you lost in an ugly fashion. I get it. I get the unhappiness. But Spagnuolo did exactly what I would have done. Do not, under any circumstances, let Derrick Henry be the reason that Tennessee wins this game or that Kansas City loses it. And Derrick Henry was not. Derrick Henry had 29 carries for 86 yards. So Kansas City did here exactly what I would have done. First of all, they took away Derrick Henry. Now, they struggled with A.J. Brown, but that brings me to the next thing here. A lot of the A.J. Brown catches were contested. You go back and you look at the film, not every catch was contested, but a lot of the A.J. Brown catches were just flat out Tannehill put the ball in a place where Brown could go up and get it. And Brown's a heck of a receiver, okay? Brown is a heck of a player, and he had an outstanding day, and Tannehill got the ball to him in a place where he could get it. So good job here, even though Tennessee was not able to, Kansas City wasn't able to shut down A.J. Brown. They did an excellent job of contesting everything. A.J. Brown was not running loose all over the Kansas City defense. It's just that he was the better guy in a lot of these matchups. And you only have so many different places to put good players if you're Kansas City, and then you got to live with your decisions. So good job on Henry. Good job on A.J. Brown in terms of contesting A.J. Brown, even though they didn't stop him. And Rashad Fenton here. Rashad Fenton is playing lights out, okay? I cannot say enough good things about Fenton. Now, he's not a shutdown corner. I don't think that he's angling for an all-pro this year, but Fenton is playing lights out. He usually, over the past few years, has been locked into the slot. That's really his best position. That's really the position I would love to see him go back to, maybe in 2022. But the Chiefs have needed him desperately to go out there and play these wide receivers out there on the wings, and he's doing it. And he is giving opposing quarterbacks a hard time. Now listen, I know he picked up a holding penalty. I think he picked up a PI penalty Sunday versus Tennessee. I understand that. Again, he's not shutting down everybody. he is giving opposing quarterbacks reason to throw the football somewhere else. Now, there's a lot of other places to throw the football, okay? They can go after Snead. They've been going after Snead hard. They can go after Hughes. They can go after Baker. But Fenton is playing tough. The body language is there. He's mirroring receivers very well. He's involved. He's fighting for the football. He is having, I think, personally, the best year he's ever had. He's taking on some of the toughest matchups that there are out there every single week, and he is not backing down. And by and large, he's not giving up a lot of underneath stuff either. He is dialed in to the receiver that he's covering, and he's making every catch a contested catch and every play a tough play. And if I were an opposing quarterback, I wouldn't be throwing over in Fenton's direction too often. The only reason they still are is because in a lot of cases, he's covering their best receiver, their favorite receiver, their go-to guy. So that's the only reason that they're still coming after Fenton at all. If the Kansas City Chiefs were to switch him off, and sometimes they do, if they were to switch him off to the number 2 receiver, and where he's got a better matchup, the opposing quarterbacks wouldn't be throwing at Fenton at all. Okay, so he is having an outstanding season. I cannot say enough good things about him. I haven't talked about him much this year, but Rashad Fenton is just playing outstanding. Okay, in a Chiefs secondary that has been struggling and really getting it handed to them, Rashad Fenton is not the reason. Rashad Fenton is just playing lights out, and they have absolutely needed it. Okay, so excellent job here from Rashad Fenton. I think I've changed my mind. I'm going to skip the offensive part. I'm going to stick with the defense here for a little bit. A week or 2 weeks ago, I think I made a whole board full of defensive recommendations for changes. The Chiefs did some of those, not because I suggested them, of course, but just because the Chiefs happen to be thinking in some of the same directions that I am when I sit back and watch the video. And here are some of those changes. Now, number one is they just got some guys back, okay? That's the biggest thing. When you get people back that you plan on having in the first place, everything kind of sort of gets a little bit better, all right? Gay is back at linebacker. He's looking good, but not great. He's not yet the Willie Gay that we saw for, I think, 250 snaps in 2020. He's not yet back in the flow. Now, he looks fluid. He looks healthy, but he's not yet back at that top play that we saw out of him in 2020. So I'm looking for Gay to get a whole lot better this year as the season goes along and he gets back into the flow. You got Chris Jones back, of course, and you have Charvarius Ward back, and of course, I think Ward looks solid so far, but I think he's going to get better as the year goes on as well. So just getting those guys back helps. And how much the defensive changes here versus just having people back helps, hey, I don't know. You know, we can all have different opinions on that. Sorensen is now back into the sub packages only. And for the most part, Sorensen is now being used as kind of a linebacker on third downs on some of the plays. Sorensen's a smart guy. He's just not athletic enough to be running around in the secondary for 30, 40, 60 snaps a game. So Sorensen is a valuable guy. They've got him back in those sub packages. They've got him back kind of sort of as a quasi safety linebacker, which is where he fits. That's where he can contribute. He's a smart guy. He always knows where he's supposed to be. He knows where everybody else is supposed to be, and just limited exposure there with having him back. Having Ward back helps a lot, but they got Juan Thornhill back in there at safety as well. We haven't yet seen Thornhill be the force that he was a season or two ago before the injury, but Thornhill looks solid so far. I'm not exactly sure, based on what we've seen out of Thornhill since he came back, I'm not exactly sure why they were holding him out. If you guys know, by all means, post that in the comments. That will not bother me at all. I'm not exactly sure why they had him out. He's looked solid since he came back. I haven't seen any major issue with Juan Thornhill that would make me want to have him sitting on the bench for most of several games. Okay, I haven't seen that, but Thornhill is back as well, and that puts Sorensen back into some of the smaller packages. He's coming in when it's good for the Chiefs to have him in, and that's a huge difference. Number three, they're being more aggressive. By more aggressive, I just mean, like with Derrick Henry, they were loading the box. Up against Washington, you could see them starting to bring people forward. Even if the linebackers and the guys in the secondary who are threatening to blitz, even if they all back out, okay, it just gives the quarterback and the offensive coordinators and the offensive line, it gives them something more to think about when you look like you're bringing pressure. And I would do this no matter if I had everybody healthy or not, no matter what kind of defense I had. I would never be given a basic look. I absolutely hate that. So over the past couple of weeks, we've seen them at least threaten to blitz more often than they were, say, in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. You started to see it against Buffalo a little bit. We've seen it a lot the past couple of weeks. Excuse me one second. I'm starting to run out of voice here tonight, but we've seen them be a lot more aggressive with their looks. And again, even if you're threatening to bring 2 or 3 guys blitzing, and they all back out of the blitz, at least you have given them something to think about. And that goes right along with number 4 here. They're being more confusing. Sometimes they're dropping guys, sometimes they're bringing them, but they're bringing them from different places. They've got Tyrann Mathieu coming in from different places. We've seen, I think, Snead come in a couple of times. We've seen Bolton come in a couple of times. Just making it less predictable. Even if you get burned, and you're going to get burned at some point, all right? Even if you get burned, making the quarterback think for at least half a second and have to read the defense for half a second longer is huge. And so they're doing more of that. They're not necessarily blitzing a whole lot more, but number 5 here, on occasion, and it was hard to see that in the Tennessee game because they were loading the box so much against Derrick Henry, but you saw it some in the Washington game. On occasion, they were bringing that 5th guy, and every once in a while, a lot against Tennessee, the 6th guy, just trying to get some pressure in there. Now, that's going to put your secondary a little bit more exposed. I understand that. That's part of it. You know, you don't want to go full aces every single play, but bringing that guy in occasionally, that 5th man or even that 6th man on the blitz, that is going to help. That is absolutely going to help this Kansas City defense. And here's what we've seen. It's kind of hard to see it because the first half against Washington was so bad, and the entire game against Tennessee was so bad. So it's kind of hard to see this. But the Kansas City defense has moved. When I did the video 2 weeks ago, did all the defensive recommendations, they were dead last in just about every defensive category, no matter which category you wanted to pick it out. Rushing yards allowed, passing yards allowed, total yards allowed, points per game allowed. I mean, you name it, DVBA, whatever. All of these things, they were like number 31 or number 32 in the league. And now they have moved up, for the most part, in all of these categories to number 26, number 27 in the league. That's still not good, but that's a significant move. And it reminds me of this. Back in 2018, I think was the year 2018, the year right before they won the Super Bowl when they lost the AFC title game to the Patriots, basically because the Patriots got the ball last in overtime. They had one of the worst defenses in football that year. The next season, they move up defensively, up somewhere in like the top 20. I don't remember exactly. They weren't a top defense, but they got better. They had a better defense, and it was better enough to carry them all the way through to a Super Bowl victory in outstanding fashion. And that's what they need from the defense this season. We know that this defense that we're talking about over the past couple of weeks, we know it's not going to be a top 10 defense. We know it's not even going to be a top 15 defense. But if Kansas City can do enough of these things, get healthy, but keep mixing it up, look a little more aggressive, keep people in spots that are favorable for them, if they can keep doing that and move from 31-32 to 26-27 and then up maybe to 20-21, the numbers on these games defensively are going to change. And that starts to tilt things back in your favor offensively. Now, you've got a whole set of offensive problems. We kind of sort of predicted some of this a couple of weeks ago. We'll talk about that in a second. But you are going to see improvements in the scores when these defensive numbers continue to change. And they've moved in the right direction. And I don't think, I don't want to, I don't, knock on wood, I don't want to put a curse here on the Chiefs as they get ready to play the Giants. I don't think you're going to see these numbers get worse against the Giants. I think you're going to see them get better. That's not to say the Giants can't win that game. That's not to say Daniel Jones can't have a good game. He can, but we're just not typically seeing the Giants offense really step up and do a whole heck of a lot this season. They have injuries everywhere. Daniel Jones probably isn't going to be 100% healthy for the rest of the year. So really kind of sort of doubt that the Kansas City Chiefs defensive numbers are going to get worse. They're probably going to get better against the Giants. But for the rest of the season, if they can continue to just kind of keep things mixed up, make it more confusing, be more aggressive, actually come on the blitz a little bit more often, you're going to see these numbers trend back toward what you kind of sort of expected at the start of the season. And that's somewhere maybe 2021 overall in the NFL. And that would make a huge difference for the Kansas City Chiefs trying to compete in these games. The one thing, I'm going to come back and beat the dead horse all over again. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to stay on it for long. But you guys have known this since probably late July, early August. I have been really pushing for Chris Jones to stay at or move back to defensive tackle. My preferred number at the start of the season, this was back in late August, right before they started the season, my preferred number was to have Chris Jones playing defensive tackle for no less than 65-70% of his snaps on the field. I didn't mind him being shuffled over to defensive end, maybe on certain passing downs. I didn't mind that. But for the most part, I really wanted to see Chris Jones staying there at defensive tackle, and maybe even on the short running yards, shift him out there to defensive end just so you can put in a big lineup with Naughty and Wharton there at defensive tackle. But for the most part, really want to see Chris Jones there at defensive tackle. I think that needs to happen. I've seen enough. I really think getting him back there at defensive tackle, for the most part, he demands two people blocking him when he's at defensive tackle. When he's at defensive end, the quarterbacks, for the most part, can just run away from him. And that's why we saw him get, I think, two sacks in the first week. And he's had, very few, if any, sacks. I haven't checked lately. Very few sacks since then. They're just running away from him at defensive end. Need to get him back at defensive tackle. That's all I'm going to say about that, at least for this video. I'll probably come back to it later in the year. But I would put Chris Jones back there at defensive tackle again. I think that's going to help the defense. All right, let's talk about the offense, okay? To me, the biggest problem, and I'm up against it statistically, and that's why I don't say that I'm a data-based video guy. I'm an analytics-based video guy. I want the numbers, give me the data, but I really want the story behind the numbers. And the story behind the numbers is this. Left tackle, right tackle, we covered it a couple of weeks ago. It's been a disaster in terms of pass blocking. And you saw this when Mahomes got injured last week, or when he got hurt on that play late in the game last week against Tennessee. Mahomes had gotten so much pressure late in the game off of left tackle and right tackle. He'd gotten so much pressure, especially from left tackle, that he looked like a deer in the headlights on that play that he got hurt. He wasn't even looking downfield. He basically was just looking to see where the pressure was coming. It was an awful look. It looked a lot like what we saw in the Super Bowl last year, and it's really all because they're getting pressure on the edges, and most of that is coming from left tackle, by far the most of it. Now, they put in Remmers here at right tackle, and I think that was the right move. That's something I talked about 2 weeks ago. They did that. For whatever reason, I guess we can debate that. Maybe that was because of the hamstring to Lucas Niang. I even heard one broadcaster suggest that maybe they just didn't want three rookies over here or three basic first-year guys over here on the right side. Whatever excuse you want to present, it was the right move to make. Remmers gives them a better chance pass blocking at right tackle than Lucas Niang was giving them so far this year. Again, Niang was doing a good job run blocking, but could not hold up against the rush and pass blocking. Now, Remmers here in 2 games, just been 2 games, he's still struggling, but he's putting up a much better fight. He went up against Chase Young repeatedly in the Washington game. And until the fourth quarter of that game, for the most part, he was putting up a good fight. There would be a play or two where Young would get past him and get pressure on Mahomes, but then there would be other plays where Remmers was holding his own and would stand up Chase Young. It was a good battle. Remmers was struggling. Young at the end of the day got the better of that matchup, but Remmers here held his own. and was giving Mahomes a little bit more time in the pocket than what Lucas Niang was able to give him. And, you know, we're talking half a second to a second, all right? But there is an improvement there in pass blocking from Remmers, and in fact, he may even get better as the year goes on. It didn't look like Lucas Niang was going to get better this year in pass blocking, okay? And so I think that's the right move to make, and so Remmers there. But you still have Orlando Brown over here struggling. I don't think that's going to get better. I haven't seen anything at all from Orlando Brown that makes me think. You know, the Ravens game, he looked good, but he was going up against a backup linebacker. And then I think for the second half against Tennessee, he actually looked pretty good too. Didn't do horribly in the third quarter, but then by the fourth quarter, it was just open season. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. The second half of the Washington game, Orlando Brown actually looked pretty good. The second half of the Tennessee game was an absolute disaster. Okay, sorry for getting mixed up there. But Orlando Brown is struggling here. He is struggling so much. The Chiefs really don't have anybody to put in here at left tackle. The thought is out there of maybe pulling Mitchell Schwartz back in if he's healthy and putting Schwartz at left tackle. I love Schwartz. Absolutely love the idea of bringing him back if financially it's feasible. I don't know that that's going to work at left tackle. If that was the start of the season and you could work Schwartz through as the season goes along, maybe I like that. But putting Schwartz in at left tackle, the more I think about that, the less comfortable I am with it. You've got Kyle Long there. He's available, I think, to play tackle. I like Long's athleticism. I like Long's toughness. I like Kyle Long's everything except for Kyle Long's health. And I don't know, I'm not sure that you're going to gain anything by putting Kyle Long in here at left tackle and him, you know, maybe playing decent for 4 or 5 games. I'm not sure that I trust him to stay healthy for the rest of the year. And then you've got to plug Orlando Brown back in. I'm not sure that that's going to work. A Wiley, perhaps, maybe plug him in at tackle, left tackle, and see what he can do. I'm really I have a lot of recommendations all over the football field. I really don't know what to do here at left tackle, okay? My only thought is this. If Remmers can, for the most part, put up a competitive fight against most of the defensive ends in the NFL, and last year he did, then you can start to put extra blockers over here and help out Orlando Brown at left tackle. That's my only real thought in terms of what to do with that position, because I don't think reinforcements are coming to left tackle. I'm not sure that Wiley can play left tackle and do it any better than Orlando Brown is doing it in pass blocking. And I'm not sure that even if Kyle Long was playing better at left tackle, which I'm not sure he would, even if you tried to put him in there at left tackle, I think he's been a guard for most of his career, played some tackle, but not left tackle. Even if you tried to put Kyle Long in there at left tackle, I don't really think he's going to play much better than what Orlando Brown is doing at left tackle. And at that point, even if he gets hurt, then you got to put Brown right back in. So I think the best bet here is to just stay with Orlando Brown for the rest of the year at left tackle and give him all the blocking help that you possibly can. Having said that, there are some things they can do with the offense here. There's a couple things I've seen them do that I didn't like. I spent 2 weeks ago, I spent an enormous amount of time talking about all the smart things that the Kansas City offensive coaching staff was doing on offense to kind of hide the fact that the tackles can't pass block. But they've plugged Remmers in, and what are they going to do with Brown? NFL defenses have figured out, if they didn't know it the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season when they were playing Kansas City, they figured it out now. Buffalo figured it out. Washington figured it out. Tennessee knew it for sure, that the tackles here just cannot pass block for Kansas City. Even if Remmers is somewhat of an upgrade, Orlando Brown just cannot get the job done, okay? So the difference this year is this, and I want to hit this before I talk about the offensive recommendations. These two tiny little numbers right here, you may not be able to see them. I'll tell you what they are. 3.5 to 5 and 2 to 2.5. The 3.5 to 5 is basically more or less 3.5 seconds to 5 seconds was how long basically Patrick Mahomes could expect to have in the pocket on most plays, on most downs against most teams in 2019 and in 2020. It's been very different this year. This year, on average, no matter what he does, whether he drops back or whether he rolls out, he's expecting usually 2 to 2.5 seconds before he's feeling some major heat. It is a major, major difference. Now, we've heard all kinds of things. I have never lost respect for football announcers in my life. I've actually started to lose a little bit this year for some very smart people who apparently just aren't doing their homework on this, talking about Patrick Mahomes is pressing, Patrick Mahomes is regressing, Patrick Mahomes is struggling. What's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? What's wrong with Patrick Mahomes is that he can't get any freaking pass blocking for any longer than 2 to 2.5 seconds from his tackles, and specifically the last 2 weeks from Orlando Brown. Okay, that is what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes, and that is the reason on some of these plays he is pressing, and what defenses are doing. Defenses have figured this out. They don't have to bring extra pressure. They don't have to bring the 5th man, the 6th man. They don't have to do any of that. They just rush forward, and they're getting pressure for most of the season off of both sides. Rivers is starting to hold up a little bit better. They're still getting tons and tons of pressure right here off the left side. The defenses know this, and what they're doing is pinching down on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They're playing a lot more physical with Hill and Kelce because they know they don't have to cover Hill and Kelce for as long. They've only got to hang on to, and believe me, opposing defenses are always barely hanging on to Hill and Kelce, okay? They've only got to hang on to them for 2 to 2.5 seconds. That's it. And that's what's allowing opposing defenses. Again, some of the comments just, and I don't like to criticize too much, but some of the comments have been ignorant, to be honest, okay? Opposing defenses and defensive coordinators did not just wake up and figure out this year, oh, if we double Hill and Kelce, and if we get more physical with them, we'll shut down the Chiefs offense. Defensive coordinators around the league have known that. They have been bracketing Hill and Kelce for the past 2 or 3 years already, but they haven't been able to be as physical or guard them as close because they've had to guard them for longer, 3.5 to 5 seconds, instead of this year, 2 to 2.5 seconds. By the way, 3.5 to 4 seconds isn't great in the NFL. If you can get 5 seconds to play, you're doing pretty good. They've had an average, solid, decent offensive line in 2019 and 2020 before the injuries leading up to the Super Bowl and the playoffs. The Kansas City Chiefs have had an average, decent number here. 3.5 to 5 is decent, solid, great. It's something to work with. 2 to 2.5 is miserable. It is an abomination. It is terrible. And it's not the fault of Joe Tooney or Humphrey or Trey Smith. It's the fault of the tackles, and specifically Lucas Niang, whom they replaced with Rivers, and especially Orlando Brown. And this is the reason why defenses know, hey, we can be more physical with Kelce. We can bump him, bang him at the line of scrimmage. We can do it all over the football field. We can even do a little bit of holding. We can try to get by with that. We can try to pinch down. We're not just bracketing Tyreek Hill anymore. We can actually put a guy right with him and not worry about him busting us up downfield because Mahomes is running for his life. Mahomes isn't able to look deep. He's not able to hang on to the ball for as long. It's 2 to 2.5 seconds. That's it. And defensive coordinators know that, and they're taking advantage of that. We talked about that 2 weeks, how that was going to start happening, and we have seen it for the past 2 weeks. That is going to keep on happening until the Chiefs either figure out something at left tackle or until they figure out some other way to kind of sort of moderate the offense. Now, I've got a couple of ideas. That's all they are. I'm nowhere near as smart as anybody on the Chiefs coaching staff, but this is just stuff that I'm seeing on video that I do like and that I don't like, and we're going to talk about that right now. First thing I've seen right here with Tyreek Hill. I understand it, but what I have seen the Chiefs doing some for the past couple of weeks, instead of sending Tyreek Hill deep, they're doing short hitches with him, and I absolutely hate that, okay? Tyreek Hill is possibly the most unguardable receiver in the NFL. But when you stop him right here and you pass the ball to him right here, he's in front of the defense. They can see him. They are more than happy to limit him right here to 5 and 10 yard catches. That thrills them to death, okay? They absolutely have no problem doing that. The safety who's over the top here for Hill, the safety who's over the top, and the defensive back here, they are tickled to death that all they have to worry about with Tyreek Hill is some of these short hitches, and I absolutely hate that. On almost every single play, Tyreek Hill needs to be going back to what he always did for Kansas City, and that is some version of some deep route, 15 to 25 yard routes, okay? Even if this number right here doesn't change, and it may not, Kansas City simply cannot allow defenses to start to scrunch down, to bring their safeties in, to drop these safeties and these linebackers in and start to pinch in that Kansas City offense. They cannot allow that to happen. No matter how much time Mahomes has to throw the ball, whether it's 2 seconds or 5, opposing defenses have to, on every single play, put 2 guys on Tyreek Hill. That's going to be true no matter what. If Tyreek Hill is going deep on every play, excuse me, I'm getting excited here. If Tyreek Hill is going deep on every single play, or say 85 to 90% of the plays, even if Mahomes doesn't get to throw him the football, he's attracting numbers, he's attracting attention. Opposing defenses have to send 2 defensive backs out there with Tyreek Hill. There's absolutely no chance, and I get it, you want the ball in your playmaker's hands. But the trouble is, Tyreek Hill is not in space when he's catching the ball here. He's got one guy right on top of him, and he's got another guy, a safety, spying him. Tyreek Hill, when he catches the ball here, he's not catching the ball in space, like in the college game you see a lot. He's catching the ball with tons of attention, tons of heat on him, and they're able to limit him for 5, 10-yard catches. And that's just not going to work. What that allows the entire defense to do is just pinch down. Basically, you can put all 11 guys within about, 10 to 12 yards of the line of scrimmage on most of these plays. They've got to keep Tyreek Hill going deep, and it doesn't have to be that route, but they've got to keep Tyreek Hill going deep on most of these plays to challenge the defense vertically, to challenge the defense for every bit of yardage that you possibly can, even if Tyreek Hill isn't going to be the primary target on some of these plays. They've got to keep these defensive backs up here and off of this area. Now, what that's going to do, and what that typically does, that allows Travis Kelce, and this is another thing that I've seen that I do not like. We're seeing Travis Kelce a lot this year over toward the sidelines. Typically, and I did a video about this in the offseason when I was talking about Noah Gray, there's an area that I call Kelce World, and it's right here in this area. Basically right where the linebackers start, 5 yards or so past the line of scrimmage to about 15 yards, and it's between the seams. This is the area that Kelce loves to work in. He's got space. He's quicker than anybody who's guarding him. He understands how to work the zones. He is excellent at the middle of the field, but when you kick him over to the sideline, not only is he in more traffic with more defensive backs, but they're able to pin him up against the sideline, and he just runs out of room. And so I don't like that. I do not at all like to see Travis Kelce running over here toward the sidelines. Now, part of that has been Mahomes is running for his life over to the sideline, and you find Kelce chasing him. And I understand that, but they need to keep Kelce here toward the middle of the field. What that's going to do is that's going to bring a defensive back with Kelce and one of the linebackers. Again, they have to double Kelce, and what we're doing here, we're stretching the field vertically, and we're clearing out or challenging the middle of the field with Kelce. Kansas City has done this for the past 2, 3, 4 seasons now. It's no secret. They've switched off of that because Mahomes doesn't have as much time to throw the football. But they've got to keep doing that because it's challenging all the rest of the field vertically and the middle of the field, and it's dragging tons of defenders with Kelce and with Hill, okay? This is important. And again, we're talking areas. This isn't a specific play set. This is just areas and zones. Hill needs to be deep on as many plays as you can get him there. He'll drag 2 defensive backs with him, as he always has. Kelce needs to stay in the middle of the field no matter which direction he's coming from. And matter of fact, now we'll get to Mahomes in a second, but he needs to go whichever direction they anticipate Mahomes rolling. And Kelce needs to continue to operate in the middle of the field. He'll drag a linebacker and a defensive back with him. That's 4 guys covering 2. It leaves everybody else in one-on-one matchups. Now, Mecole Hardman, again, this is something that the Chiefs have done in years past. Mecole Hardman is the guy who needs to be doing all the short stuff, the screens and the hitches. It doesn't need to be Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is unguardable down here if Mahomes has time to get the ball to him. But even if he doesn't, he's going to drag those two defenders. Hardman is the guy that they need to give all the short stuff to. Hardman is the guy who can beat people one-on-one. even if he doesn't have enough space. If you're happy with 5 or 10 yard gains from a guy here short in space on screens and hitches, give them to Hardman and allow Hill to stretch the defense vertically, okay? It at least gives Hardman a chance. If Hardman is here, he's catching the ball in a one-on-one situation in a lot of these instances. Tyreek Hill is not. Hill is getting the ball in short yardage situations or in short area situations with 2 guys looking at him. McCole Hardman, if he gets it, will have basically 1 guy looking at him, usually a defensive back, right? So it's important to keep Hardman on all this short stuff. It's important to keep Tyreek Hill on the deep stuff, keep Kelsey here because they attract so much attention. And I understand they don't have time to get the ball out to these deep areas, but they got to keep doing that to stretch and challenge the defense vertically. Okay, the one other thing here, and I've got the question mark here. They need to go either with Josh Gordon, and I'm hearing rumors that he might be in the works, starting to get more in the offense, or they need to work in Noah Gray. The reason we haven't seen Noah Gray this year, one of the reasons is because the Chiefs have needed a second tight end to block more, and that's been Fortson a lot over the past few weeks. He's injured now, of course, and that was Blake Bell for the early part of the season. They were using that second tight end to help out the 2 tackles in blocking. Now, Noah Gray is a smart guy and usually knows his blocking assignments, but he's had trouble in college sustaining those blocks. A lot of the defenders just slip those blocks that Noah Gray puts on them. He's working on that. He's improving. But the Chiefs got Noah Gray to catch footballs, and basically they got him to catch footballs in short yardage. Now, if they plug in Noah Gray, I'd rather have Josh Gordon. If Josh Gordon's healthy, ready to go, knows the playbook, I'd rather have Josh Gordon, okay? Athletically, he's superior. He's big. I think he's 6'3", 225. He creates mismatches for anybody he goes up against, whether it's a slot defender or whether it's a linebacker, a safety. Anybody Gordon goes up against, he creates some mismatch problems just for his size alone, okay? Noah Gray can do the same, but Gordon will be better athletically. So I'd love to see Josh Gordon working in here. Josh Gordon, if he's in here, working these short areas and catching the ball here on the sidelines. That's where you want Gordon, okay? You don't want Kelsey out here on the sidelines. That's not his favorite area. You want Gordon out here on the sidelines catching some of those toss-up throws. He'll be in one-on-one matchups. It's a great matchup for him. If you want Noah Gray in here, maybe for whatever reason Gordon isn't ready, I think the Chiefs could benefit from having a 2 tight end set, not only for blocking schemes, because I think Noah Gray could probably block a whole heck of a lot better than Josh Gordon, but not only for blocking, but Noah Gray can slip out here and catch some of the underneath stuff as well. This is something that the Chiefs need if they want to go short area, short yardage, and take what the defense is giving them. They can get it with Hardman. They can get it with either Gray or Gordon. Don't know yet. We haven't seen enough of Noah Gray to know if he's actually a viable tight end in the NFL, but it's time to kind of start taking a look at that. So whether they put in Gordon, which would be my preference, or whether they go with a 2 tight end set, the point is this. With Gordon or with Gray, you have 2 guys in there who are creating size mismatches for defenses who tend to play a lot of defensive backs. And even if you put in a linebacker, they're usually not very good in pass coverage. And a lot of times, a lot of NFL defenses like to keep the linebackers in zone coverage, which Noah Gray operates very well against. So no matter what you do, whether it's Gray or Gordon, you have a very good chance here if Patrick Mahomes only has 2 to 2.5 seconds to throw the football on the average play, and you're looking for underneath stuff, you're looking for holes in the zone, which Gray can find, or you're looking for a mismatch, which Josh Gordon can provide in one-on-one. But what sets that up is Tyreek Hill deep, Kelsey taking up so much attention in the middle. It opens up these short things here for Hardman and for Hill. And oh, by the way, Williams can help out on blocking and then slip out to some of these areas as well in the short area yardage. I think that's where they need to go. They need to keep running the football. The Chiefs are doing an excellent job in run blocking, but they cannot run the football against a loaded or against an aggressive box. They're going to have to continue to challenge deep. The one last thing, and thank you so much if you're still watching this video, thank you so much. The one last thing I would assert is this. The Kansas City Chiefs need to take control of the pocket. Now, they're going to get something when they do this, and they're going to give up something when they do this. And what I mean by it is this. Patrick Mahomes is not going to be able, unless they figure out something at left tackle, he is not going to be able to drop back consistently for 5 and 7 steps throughout most of the game. In fact, he is starting to lose confidence in his offensive line. We saw that in the second half against Tennessee. He's not losing confidence in himself, I don't think. He's losing confidence in those tackles, specifically left tackle. We got to get Mahomes away from that, okay? And the only way to do that is for the entire game, or for 80% of the game, is to move the pocket, to have Mahomes roll out on every single play. He's comfortable doing that. Have him roll out right, left, keep mixing it up, but have him roll out and reestablish the pocket. What that does, especially if you move out this way, whoever's coming from this tackle spot has a long ways to go. It allows you to shift the blocking numbers over here to help Remmers if he needs help at all, and it allows Mahomes to already know, he already knows where his pressure is going to be coming from. If he rolls this way, you can allow the pressure to come here, and he can reestablish his pocket here. If he rolls over this way, he knows the pressure is coming from here, and he can see whatever's coming right here, but you've got blocking help right here with Williams, and Remmers is holding up better. What do you lose when you do that? Well, when you do that, if Mahomes is rolling over this way, you're losing this third of the field. He's not going to be able to throw back over here. When you do that to this side, when Mahomes rolls out, same thing, you're losing your pass patterns over here. So the defense has less ground typically that they have to cover. I understand Mahomes has a strong arm, but typically on most of the plays, Mahomes is not going to be able to throw from here all the way back over to the deep third over here. Typically, I know he's got a strong arm, but on most plays, he's not going to be able to throw back into coverage over here is my point. And if you know that you're doing that, and this is the Chiefs asserting control of the pocket basically, instead of Mahomes having to wonder 360, where is my pressure coming from, he'll know on every single play where that heat is coming from. He'll know. Now he's going to be under pressure on every single play, but that's already happening. The Chiefs might as well assert control of this pocket and have him roll out. They've already been doing some of this. I don't want to say that they haven't. It's part of what they were doing 2 weeks ago. They're going to have to keep doing more of this, though. Running the football, play action, roll him out even more on every single play. Forget the dropping back until you get something figured out at left tackle. Keep rolling him out on every single play. Short stuff to Hardman, not Hill. Short stuff to Williams or to, I'm forgetting, Jerick McKinnon, the running back that came back from the practice squad. Either of those guys running the ball, throwing to them in the short routes. Make sure Kelsey is occupying defenders here in the middle of the field. It will open up one-on-one matchups or zone holes versus the defense. Make sure Hill keeps going deep. Mahomes will be able to find him at times if they know where the pressure is coming from. These are the kinds of things, and again, we're just talking about changing things up here. We're starting to talk about confusing the defense. We're starting to talk about take control of the pocket. These are some of the things that the Kansas City Chiefs need to do, okay? This has been sloppy. I get it. Thank you so much for watching. It's been fun. I enjoyed it as always. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the Giants game. Enjoy the next game. There's a chance I may not be doing a video the week after the Giants game, but hopefully I think the Packers are up next. Maybe after the Giants and Packers both, I'll do another video on all of this. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye.